Chapter 1. You were never held, only left. It begins at night. Not the kind of night that comforts, but one that hovers, damp, vast, and indifferent. The air carries no warmth, only the creaking of kired wood and the distant shuffle of worn sandals on gravel. You weren't expected. You weren't wanted. You were simply left, swaddled in rags that were never meant to keep warmth in, at the edge of a moss-covered temple, whose roof once shone red, but now sagged beneath centuries of rain. The wind brushes your skin like the hand of a stranger, present, but not kind. There is no name whispered into your ear, no chest against your cheek, just the muted breath of the monk who finds you, and then, just as quickly, retreats. Abandonment here is not dramatic. It is not shouted from rooftops or drowned in tears. It is a custom, an arrangement, a silent agreement between poverty and practicality. In feudal Japan, a child like you was a question no one wished to answer. Born without title, without claim, without a future anyone cared to imagine, you arrived in this world as an inconvenience. Not cursed, just extra. And in a time when every grain of rice was counted, you were a cost too steep to justify. The straw mat beneath you is coarse, poking through the fabric and scratching the soft skin on your back. The scent around you is not unfamiliar to this world: old urine, dried milk, wet earth. But to you, it is the first atmosphere you breathe. Crying brings no arms, only silence in return. You listen. Far off, a bell tolls, not for you. Closer, the gurgle in your stomach speaks louder than any prayer. Hunger, you learn early, is a loyal companion.
You do not miss your mother. How could you? You never knew her warmth, her voice, her absence. But you do miss things you've never had. The soft friction of skin against skin, the steady beat of a heart nearby, the warmth that doesn't come from sunlight. Instead, you have the cold, and you have waiting. Waiting becomes your instinct, your rhythm, your lullaby. Not waiting for someone, just waiting. Today, babies are swaddled in organic cotton, monitored by machines, guarded by lullabies and light. You, on the other hand, were rocked by the sighing wind and watched from afar by a monk who feared attachment more than death. If he named you, he likely forgot it. If he held you, it was with the caution one gives to impermanence. Days pass, unmeasured. No one returns. You survive because someone, no one ever tells you who, leaves bowls of old rice by the door. Not out of care, out of guilt perhaps, or to ward off the shame of a corpse at the gates. You are not nurtured, you are tolerated. Time takes you in, but time is no mother. It neither soothes nor explains. It just continues and drags you with it. Maybe you felt it in some quiet part of your own life. Not the brutality of being abandoned in the flesh, but the slow erosion of being forgotten, left out, looked over. That hollow feeling when someone doesn't come back, not because they can't, but because they didn't plan to. That small, sharp silence where a voice should have been. It's from that hollow, from that cold breath of absence, that this story rises. And it is from there that you begin. Chapter 2. Raised by Silence. No one teaches you to speak. There are no lullabies, no names repeated softly into your ear. Your mouth stays closed, your tongue stiff with disuse. What you do learn comes not from words, but from listening, not to voices, but to footsteps, the measured rhythm of sandals on stone, the brief pause before a door closes, the rustle of robes against old wooden floors. That's your language. Your first word is not mother or home, it is hunger, not spoken, but felt. The second is nothing, and it echoes more than the first. The monks don't speak to you, they speak around you, over you. If they refer to you at all, it's as that one, the left behind, the found thing. You are a smudge in their line of sight, a breath they exhale when they're tired. Even when they gesture in your direction, it's with a kind of abstraction, as if to say, that object, over there. The language that flows between them is sharp and ceremonial. You, meanwhile, become fluent in silence. Your childhood is carved from soundless spaces, the wind pushing through cracks in the wall, the soft percussion of rain on tile, the shrill bark of a dog somewhere on the outskirts of the village. These are the only things that speak to you, and even they offer no answers, no warmth, just presence, repetition. The world does not greet you, it simply continues existing, with or without you. You begin to recognize voices, but none of them carry your name. There is no name. Names are for those who are claimed, who are looked in the eye and told, you are mine. You are not. You are just here, a creature among many, a body that moves and eats and sweeps the floor. When someone asks who you are, they do not wait for a reply. They already know what they believe. You are nobody. But still, your ears learn. You hear what others do not intend you to hear. The fatigue in the older monk's sigh, the bitterness in the way rice is scooped, the quiet tension before a reprimand. Silence has many dialects. You learn them all because it is the only language that includes you. And so you grow, not into a child, but into a shadow that makes no demands. Your words, when they come, are few, mostly internal. You think more than you speak. You notice more than you ask. And when you do speak, it is as if breaking a spell, startling others with the reminder that you still exist. You were not raised with stories. You were raised with footsteps. And silence has shaped you into something they do not recognize, because it shaped you into someone they never expected to last.
Chapter 3: The Chores That Keep You Invisible. You wake up before the first crow of the rooster, not because someone calls, but because your body has learned the rhythm of obedience. The cold bites harder before dawn, and your feet find the ground like a ritual. No one says good morning. There are no greetings in this place, only expectations, unspoken but heavy as stone. You sweep the temple's courtyard, grain by grain, leaf by leaf, as if trying to erase your own presence from it. You scrub bowls that you never eat from. You fetch water that others will drink, and still no one says your name. But if you are late, if your figure is not where it should be, when it should be, someone will notice, not with concern, with irritation, like missing a tool from its place. The work is not difficult. It is endless. You clean what will get dirty again, carry what will need carrying again. You perform the same tasks in the same order every single day, as if repetition could carve meaning into your existence. But it doesn't. It just wears you thinner. The days blur, one long cycle of doing and undoing, being useful without being seen. Your hands grow calloused, but no one calls it growing up. Your back begins to ache, but no one says you've become a man. In this world, you don't age, you just erode. You once asked if you could stop to rest, just once. You weren't trying to challenge anything, you were just tired. The monk laughed, a dry, brittle sound, and kept walking. That was the joke.
The idea that someone like you could ask for anything. Rest was not for you. It was for others after you had made it possible. So you stopped asking. Instead, you learned the silent comedy of your position. The way your own hunger came second to a speck of dust in a senior monk's chamber. The way your blisters were irrelevant beside a misaligned mat. Your body learned to serve without waiting. Your heart learned to ache without asking. One day, you realized something strange. You could predict every order before it was spoken. Not because you were clever, but because your place was so low it never changed. That was your gift. Invisibility wrapped in usefulness. A kind of tragic efficiency. And in that space, where nothing is yours, and your absence speaks louder than your presence, you begin to fade. Not physically, spiritually. Like smoke that clings to old wood but never leaves a mark.
Chapter 4. Hunger is your only inheritance. Hunger does not arrive like a sudden knock. It grows slowly, like mold in the corners of your stomach. A quiet presence that settles and stays. It becomes the background noise of your life, the hum beneath your thoughts, the rhythm beneath your breath. You don't wait for meals. You wait for scraps, the leftover grains from someone else's bowl, a root forgotten behind the temple, a torn rice cake discarded, not out of generosity, but by accident. The food, when it comes, carries no pleasure. It is cold, gray, and always too little. You chew not for taste, but for survival. Sometimes you swallow before you even know what it was. There's no savoring when every bite feels like it might be the last. And in this place, food is never a promise. It is a question with no guaranteed answer. The broth they serve is little more than tinted water, tasting faintly of regret. Rice comes broken, overcooked, or not at all. Once, they gave you a piece of sardine. It looked like a memory of a fish, brittle bones with flakes of something that used to be meat. You chewed carefully, not out of fear, but because it lasted longer when you pretended it was whole. No one asks if you're hungry. Hunger is expected. It is your condition, like dust on the floor or smoke in the rafters. It marks you without needing to be spoken. In fact, the dogs in the courtyard eat better. They have names, bowls, even the occasional scratch behind the ears. You watch them from a distance, not with envy, but with quiet observation. They belong. You do not. You have learned not to ask, not to linger near the kitchens, not to hope. Hope is a dangerous appetite. It sharpens the ache. It tricks the body into waiting for kindness that never arrives. So you train yourself to chew fast, to feel less, to expect even less than that. And when there's nothing, truly nothing, you drink water and imagine the taste of something warm. Your body shrinks around the hunger, not just in size, but in movement. You learn to conserve. Fewer steps, smaller gestures, silence instead of questions. The less you consume, the less they remember you exist. And perhaps that's the point. Not to be filled, but to become hollow enough to pass unnoticed. You survive, not because they feed you, but because hunger has become your discipline, your inheritance, passed to you like a ghost story whispered by absence. You carry it not in your hands, but in your ribs, in the way your eyes scan the floor for crumbs as others talk about prayer. Hunger teaches you a kind of worship, not of gods, of endurance. Chapter 5. Becoming the ghost they won't see. You do not walk anymore. You glide. Your feet touch the ground, but lightly, as if fearing to disturb it. Doors open and close without your hand. Shadows shift, and you are already gone. To exist too loudly is to invite attention, and attention here is a blade with no handle. So you become silence in motion,
a whisper where a boy should be. You stop meeting eyes, not out of shame, but out of instinct. Looking back means being noticed. Being noticed means being remembered. And nothing good has ever followed that. You study the monks' habits, their schedules, their blind spots. You know when to clean, when to retreat, when to vanish between breaths. Presence becomes a liability. Absence becomes a skill. No one calls your name. Maybe because they forgot it. Maybe because it was never spoken in full. You are that one, the foundling, the temple's mistake. Paperless, parentless, placed between chores and silence. If you fell one day, broke a bone or your breath, no ink would mark your passing. There would be no lantern, no incense, no chant. Only a replacement, another boy to sweep, bow, fade. You begin to understand that you are not living. You are being tolerated. Like moss on the edge of the well, green, soft, easily scraped. The world does not argue your presence, but it does not welcome it either. You are here by omission, not permission. A forgotten note at the end of someone else's scripture. And yet, even ghosts long for warmth. Some nights you sleep pressed against the kitchen wall, hoping for a hint of heat from the stone. Once, you touched the fabric of the abbot's robe left hanging on a peg, just to feel what real cloth felt like. It was smooth, heavy, clean. Your fingers lingered only for a moment, but the memory of that touch lasted days. You become fluent in invisibility, not just in movement, but in breath, in thought. You don't hope to be loved, you just hope not to be stepped on. And when someone stumbles over you, muttering annoyance, it almost feels like recognition. Almost. There is a cruel elegance to your fading. No drama, no rebellion, only quiet subtraction. A boy dissolving into routine, into labor, into dust. They don't see you. Not because you're hidden, but because you've mastered the art of not needing to be seen. You are not a ghost by death. You are a ghost by design.
Chapter 6. Finding Dignity in Filth. You clean yourself in silence, as if apologizing for having a body. A rusted tin basin becomes your mirror, your river, your shrine. The water is always cold, so cold it aches in your bones before it touches your skin. Sometimes it's been used already. Sometimes it's just rain collected from the eaves, thick with dust and insect wings. But it's all you have. 10 boys, 1 bucket, no complaints. Your feet are scrubbed with the same cloth used for the floor. Your face is wiped with your sleeve. You do not know the softness of towels, the comfort of soap. Ash is rubbed against your teeth until the taste becomes familiar, gritty, metallic, like regret. And still, you persist, because even forgotten things want to feel clean. Clothing is not given, it is inherited. You wear the threadbare layers of boys who outgrew them or disappeared. Each robe has the scent of someone else's sweat, someone else's story. You don't know their names, but your skin remembers their presence. The fabric is stiff, patched with mismatched cloth, and never quite dry. Some mornings it clings like a second skin. Other days it bites like frost. You pull it tighter anyway. It's the only thing between your body and the world. Shoes are for the privileged. Your soles have thickened from stone and splinters, each step a quiet conversation with pain. In winter, the cold climbs from the ground into your bones. In summer, the dust cuts like tiny blades. You learn to walk light, to ignore the sting. And when it bleeds, you bandage with rags, or not at all. Your body becomes a quiet ledger. Each bruise, each scab, each faded welt, a line in a book no one reads. Not all wounds come from falls. Some come from silence, from being in the wrong place at the wrong hour, from taking too long, from being too loud. But you don't cry anymore. You just memorize the corners where no one looks, where the pain can settle in peace. Still, there is a strange pride that grows in the grime. You know how to make fire from damp wood, how to boil rice until it doesn't stick, how to wash your scalp with sand when water runs out. You know that even the unwanted can find ritual in the mundane, that dignity in places like this is not gifted, it is forged. And so, every morning, you rise in dirt, dress in memory, and step barefoot into a world that never asked for you. You wash not to be seen, but to remember that even here, even now, you are still alive. And being alive, despite everything, is its own form of rebellion.
Chapter 7. Your body is not yours. Your body grows in the shadows, not like a sapling reaching for light, but like moss, slow, quiet, unnoticed. No one charts your height against a post. No one asks if your limbs ache or your joints strain. Growth here is accidental, a byproduct of surviving another season. You learn the limits of your frame not through play or praise, but through labor. If you can carry 2 buckets instead of 1, you've grown. If you don't collapse under the weight, you're ready. You are not asked how you feel. You are told how to move. Your back learns the arc of bowing before it learns to stretch. Your knees forget comfort. Your hands, always raw, carry memory better than your mind. Blisters bloom and fade without comment. Cuts scab over beneath layers of ash and dust. No one tends to them. Pain becomes a companion, not a warning. Illness is a quiet thief. There is no nurse, no blanket, no hand across your forehead. Fever curls into your muscles like smoke. You do not cry out. There's no room for weakness here. You simply move slower, breathe shallower, wait longer. If you recover, you return to your chores. If you don't, someone else takes your bowl. Hunger hollows you, not into thinness, but into numbness. You feel your ribs, not because you're proud, but because you're empty. You learn to sleep through cramps, to chew even when the food is flavorless, to swallow air between meals as if it might fool the ache. Your stomach is a drum, always echoing absence. And yet, it is not your hunger, not your pain, not your sickness. These things happen to you, but they do not belong to you. Ownership implies care, and your body is no more yours than the clothes you wear or the name you answer to. You belong to the work, to the silence, to the place that refuses to acknowledge you and still demands your breath. You do not hate your body. There's no space for vanity or shame. It is a tool, a vessel, a thing that carries water, endures beatings, survives winters. And sometimes, when the wind moves just right, when the evening light slips across the temple floor, you almost believe it holds something sacred. Almost. But mostly, it just hurts. Quietly, daily, like something borrowed that no one ever plans to return. Chapter 8. The Art of Not Being Remembered. You sweep the same stones every morning, yet no one notices the paths you clear. Your footprints disappear with the wind. Your efforts dissolve into the dust. There is no record of your presence. No drawings, no whispers, no memory that belongs to anyone but you. And even that, your own memory, begins to blur.
The days fold into each other like worn pages in a book no one reads. You forget what season it is, what day, what year. You forget your own voice. No one teaches you to write. You hold a brush once just to clean it and feel something strange, a flutter where longing lives. But paper is for names, for lineage, for those whose lives are meant to be told. You are not one of them. Your story is not written. It is wiped clean, again and again, like the temple floor you scrub before dawn. Sometimes you try to remember the face of the monk who first looked at you. Was his expression curious, resigned, kind? But your mind plays tricks. The faces change, they blur. You begin to wonder if anyone truly saw you at all. You hear the stories the older boys tell, about mothers who sang, about sisters who braided their hair, about grandfathers who told jokes after meals. You nod, but you don't relate. Your past has no names, no laughter, no lullabies, just silence and the low, steady sound of footsteps that always pass you by. And still, you do things right. You don't cause trouble, you stay quiet. You learn to bow just deep enough, to stand still just long enough. Because being forgotten is safer than being seen and rejected again. To be remembered is to risk meaning something. And you've learned, meaning is dangerous. It leads to hope, and hope leads to pain. So you master the art of erasure. You fold your existence into corners. You let others walk through the center of life while you press yourself against the walls. You become excellent at leaving no trace, no scent, no mark, no echo. And one night, you stare at the reflection of a flickering lantern in a basin of water and realize, one day, you will die, and no one will have known you lived. And somehow, that hurts less than the thought that someone might have known and still forgotten.
Chapter 9. Finding Dignity in Filth. You wake to the cold biting through the thin fabric that clings to your skin, a threadbare shroud patched from scraps no one wanted. Your body is a map of neglect, each scar a silent chapter, each abrasion a reminder that dignity is a fragile thing, easily torn. You search for cleanliness in a world that offers none. The water you find is cold and bitter, drawn from a well too far and shared by many. You dip your hands into it, then your feet, scrubbing away the grime of yesterday, the sweat of survival. The basin is cracked and stained, a relic as worn as you. You use a handful of ashes, charcoal remains of last night's meager fire, to brush your teeth. The roughness scratches, but it is better than nothing. Parabens, you survived the bathroom. Your clothes are no more than rags, stitched hastily by hands that have never known gentleness. Each thread carries the weight of another's past, patches of fabric that once belonged to a stranger, now wrapped around your frame. The rough edges scrape your skin, reminding you that you wear memories, not warmth. You look down at your hands, calloused and raw, and at your feet, hardened and cracked. Your body is a ledger of hardship, bruises from falls, scars from the sharp corners of poverty, and the invisible wounds of loneliness. No one asks about the stories etched into your skin. They are too busy forgetting you. Yet, in this filth, in these marks and stains, there is a strange kind of dignity. It is the dignity of endurance, the quiet pride of surviving without witness, of existing against the current of indifference.
You are alive. You breathe. You move forward, even when the world has written you off. And so you hold your head a little higher, though the clothes do not fit and the water is cold, because in this forgotten corner of the world, your survival is the fiercest act of rebellion.
Chapter 10. The Cycle of the Days That Never Change. The dawn breaks slowly, pale light filtering through the cracks in the wooden walls. You wake again, not with hope, but with the quiet resignation of someone who knows the routine will repeat itself, merciless and unchanging. Your body moves out of habit, a silent clockwork mechanism shaped by endless days of the same tasks, the same silence. The cold morning air settles on your skin as you rise before the rooster crows, before the monks stir from their sparse quarters. You slip through shadows, careful to avoid attention. To be seen is to be burdened. Invisibility is your shield. Your hands find the broom, rough and splintered, and you begin your silent worship, sweeping away the dust, the debris, the traces of another night survived alone. The hours stretch long and slow, marked only by the scraping of wood on stone and the faint drip of water from the eaves. You scrub the pots with worn brushes, water turning murky with dirt and neglect. Your muscles ache, but the pain is a companion you have learned to accept without complaint. Mealtime is a quiet affair. Food arrives in small portions, leftovers from those who eat better, laugh louder, live freer. You swallow quickly, the texture of the food gritty and cold, flavors faded by time and disinterest. Hunger gnaws, but you hide it beneath a mask of obedience. Asking for more is a joke no one finds funny. As the sun dips low, you retreat into the shadows once more, body tired but restless. Your bed is a thin mat on the cold floor, the night air carrying the faint scent of smoke and damp earth. Sleep is elusive, a brief escape in a world that refuses to remember you. And so the cycle turns, relentless and unforgiving, a slow descent marked by chores, hunger, and solitude. Each day blends into the next, a river with no shore, carrying you forward while leaving you behind.
Yet, within this endless repetition, there is a strange rhythm, a quiet testimony to survival, a whispered promise that even in abandonment, life insists on continuing. The world around you speaks in whispers and footsteps, never words. You grow not by the sound of voices, but by the rustling of robes and the creaking of wooden floors. No one teaches you how to speak. No one asks for your story or your name. The only language you know is the hunger gnawing at your belly and the silence that wraps around you like a shroud. Your first attempts at words are swallowed by the stillness. When you finally utter something, it is not a name or a greeting, but a raw, primal sound, hunger. The second time, it is nothing, an empty breath lost in the cold air. The monks' voices carry through the halls, but their commands are never meant for you. They speak as if you are invisible, a shadow to be ignored. You learn to listen, not to be heard. The clatter of wooden sandals, the steady chime of temple bells, the distant bark of a dog become your lullabies. No one answers your silence. No hand reaches out to guide or comfort. You exist in the spaces between sounds, growing in the quiet that both protects and isolates you. Each day, the absence of voice teaches you more than any word could. You are raised by silence, shaped by what is left unsaid, molded by the gaps between presence and neglect. It is a language cruel and endless, and you learn to speak it without ever moving your lips.
Chapter 11. The Chores That Keep You Invisible. Dawn arrives not with light, but with the sound of a rooster's crow. Though here, even that feels distant, like a reminder of a world that does not include you. You wake before the sun dares to rise, your body heavy with the exhaustion of another night without rest. The cold seeps into your bones as you step quietly into the courtyard, careful not to disturb the slumbering monks, as if your very presence were a mistake. Your hands, still trembling from hunger, take up the broom. The wooden handle rough and splintered against your palms, scraping against stone floors layered with dust and old leaves. You sweep with the precision of a ghost, seen by none, remembered by fewer. Your name is never called aloud. You are the shadow that moves before the light, the silence between prayers. You scrub pots and pans until your fingers are raw and aching, the scalding water stinging, but somehow more bearable than the loneliness. Every task is repetitive, endless, a cycle with no beginning, no end. Lather, scrub, rinse, repeat. Your body learns to obey. Your voice learns to stay quiet. When you dare, once, to ask if you might rest, the laughter that follows is not cruel, but hollow, a bitter melody of understanding that you are nothing more than the chores that must be done. A lesson harshly learned. To be seen is to be burdened. To be invisible is to survive. You master the language of servitude, not spoken with words, but with the silent acceptance of your place. Hunger is the first language you learn, and the one you speak fluently. The meals you receive are not nourishment, but reminders, cold, gray portions that have lost any pretense of care. When food arrives, it is never fresh. It carries the weight of indifference, as if meant only to silence the cries of your empty stomach. You swallow quickly, not to savor, but to forget. The rice soup is lukewarm and thin, its taste diluted by time and neglect. Occasionally, a sardine appears on your bowl, small and brittle, more spine than flesh, a relic of forgotten sustenance. You eat not because you want to, but because not eating means collapse. Even the dogs of the monastery fare better, fed scraps with names and attention, a warmth you will never know. They have masters, a place in the order of things. You are simply what remains, the last thread of a story no one wishes to tell. Each bite you take is a quiet act of rebellion against the void, a stubborn affirmation that you are still here, still alive, if barely.
Chapter 12. Hunger is your only inheritance. Hunger is the first language you learn, and the one you speak fluently. The meals you receive are not nourishment, but reminders, cold, gray portions that have lost any pretense of care. When food arrives, it is never fresh. It carries the weight of indifference, as if meant only to silence the cries of your empty stomach. You swallow quickly, not to savor, but to forget. The rice soup is lukewarm and thin, its taste diluted by time and neglect. Occasionally, a sardine appears on your bowl, small and brittle, more spine than flesh, a relic of forgotten sustenance. You eat not because you want to, but because not eating means collapse. Even the dogs of the monastery fare better, fed scraps with names and attention, a warmth you will never know.
They have masters, a place in the order of things. You are simply what remains, the last thread of a story no one wishes to tell. Each bite you take is a quiet act of rebellion against the void, a stubborn affirmation that you are still here, still alive, if barely. You move through the world like a shadow, barely there, as if you know too well that presence invites punishment. Your footsteps are light, your breathing held in check, an exercise in invisibility practiced from necessity. To be seen is to risk pain. To be unnoticed is to survive another day. Your identity is no more than an absence, a blank space where a name or family should be. No paper, no record, no claim to anything. You exist because the world forgot to erase you, a ghost lingering on the edges of existence, unnoticed and unmissed. Life becomes a series of small accidents, continuous and unplanned. You are not here because someone chose you, but because they failed to remove you. Your story is written in silence, in the spaces between other lives, a quiet testament to being overlooked. The irony is bitter. In a place where honor and lineage mean everything, you are the living proof of what happens when those ties are severed, forgotten, erased, but never truly gone.
Chapter 13. Finding Dignity in Filth. You wash your feet in a bucket shared by 10 others, the water murky and cold, carrying traces of dirt and neglect. Your toothbrush is nothing but a twig or ashes from the hearth, a crude tool that barely scratches the surface. Congratulations! You've survived the bathroom, or at least what passes for one here. Your clothes are patched rags, once belonging to strangers and destined for others yet unknown. You wrap yourself in threads soaked with stories that aren't yours, textures rough against your skin, frayed edges cutting quietly. This fabric is both armor and reminder. You belong nowhere. Your body tells its own story, an inventory of scars, bruises, and calluses collected over years of hardship. Each mark whispers a silent tale of falls, hunger, and the occasional punishment handed down without ceremony or voice. These wounds are your history, the map of a life no one asked for, but you still endure. In the quiet moments, when the world seems to forget you even exist, you discover a strange dignity in the filth that surrounds you. It's a dignity born not from comfort or pride, but from the stubbornness to persist. The dirt under your fingernails, the rough fabric clinging to your skin, these become badges of survival, tokens of a silent rebellion against the erasure. You learn to move with careful grace, balancing the shame of your state with the fierce will to live. Even in the absence of warmth and welcome, you craft small rituals, a moment to clean your face with cold water, a breath held in the stillness of dawn. These fragile acts of care are your quiet protest against the harshness of the world. The monastery's walls may keep you confined, but inside, beneath the grime and scars, something unyielding takes root. It is the faintest flicker of a flame, a pulse of life that refuses to be extinguished. This is where your story lingers, in the small, defiant moments where dignity is found amidst filth.
Chapter 14. Finding Dignity in Filth. You wash your feet in a bucket shared by 10 others, the water murky and cold, each splash stirring a mix of dirt and forgotten despair. There's no luxury here,
No privacy, only the rough rhythm of survival. Scrubbing with ash instead of soap, you trace the cracks in your skin, each line a silent testimony of endurance. Parabéns, você sobreviveu ao banheiro. Your clothes are patchworks of memories, fabric once worn by strangers, now barely holding together, whispering stories you'll never hear. The rough stitches rub against your skin, reminding you that these threads are all you have to cover your wounds. You wear not just cloth, but a burden of invisibility and neglect. Every scar on your body tells a tale, from falls on uneven floors to the quiet punishments of neglect. They are the ink of your existence, written on flesh no one bothered to protect. Each mark is a chapter, a silent scream in a story that the world refuses to read. You move through the day like a shadow, stitched into the fabric of the village, unseen yet always present. Every step is careful, deliberate, so as not to draw attention, because attention is punishment. The eyes that glance your way are quick to look away, as if acknowledging your existence is a debt no one wants to pay. Your name is never spoken aloud. You are the one left behind, the forgotten, a ghost wandering the edges of lives that carry on without you. No birth record, no lineage, just the cold certainty of absence. And in that absence, you find a strange kind of identity, defined not by who you are, but by who refuses to see you. Yet there is dignity in your invisibility, a silent resilience born from knowing that to survive, you must become the unnoticed thread holding together a tapestry that never welcomed you. You exist in the cracks, in the spaces between spoken words and deliberate silences, enduring without complaint, carrying weight that no one acknowledges. Chapter 15: The Quiet Defiance of Endurance. Each morning breaks over the village like a muted promise you never asked for. You rise with the first light, your body already acquainted with the ache of waiting and a taste of neglect. There is no room for weakness here. Even the smallest sign of pain must be swallowed whole, hidden beneath layers of silent endurance. You learn that strength is not loud. It is a quiet defiance, a steady refusal to be erased by the weight of invisibility. The world may have left you at the temple steps, but you refuse to disappear completely. You move through the day with a careful grace, a shadow weaving its way through the gaps in care and attention. The cold wind brushing against your skin is a constant reminder of your solitude, yet it also whispers an unspoken promise that survival is itself a rebellion. Every breath you take, every step you make, is a testament to a stubborn life clinging to the edge of oblivion. Your body carries the stories no one asks to hear. Scars, both visible and hidden, map a landscape of pain and neglect. Each mark is a silent witness to a moment when the world turned away, when a hand that should have comforted chose instead to remain distant and cold. The rough fabric of your clothes rubs against your skin, reminding you daily of what it means to be unwanted. The layers of patched cloth hold not warmth, but memories of other bodies, other lives, none of which are your own. You wear the remnants of strangers, as if to shield yourself from the emptiness inside. Inside your chest, a heavier weight rests, a pressure born not of flesh, but of the invisible wounds left by absence. You learn to move carefully, to protect that fragile core from breaking apart. The world never saw you fully. It saw only a shadow, a ghost in plain sight, And so you learn to hide pieces of yourself even from yourself.
Chapter 16. Silent Echoes of Forgotten Names. Your name, if you were ever given one, is like a whisper lost in a vast, empty hall. It holds no power, no promise, no identity. It is spoken once, perhaps, then quickly forgotten, like a prayer cast into the wind. Around you, names come and go, names tied to lineage, honor, and belonging, but yours drifts in the void, unclaimed, unattached, a quiet echo of absence. Without a name, you become less than a person, a fragment drifting in a sea of faces who matter. And yet, despite the emptiness, you clutch to that fragile sound, hoping it might someday hold meaning. The silence that follows is deafening, but it is yours to carry. You become both the silence and the echo, a ghost living between worlds. Each day begins before the sun has stretched its light over the village. Your feet touch the cold earth, carrying you along paths no one notices. You move like a shadow cast by the dawn, silent and unseen. The footsteps around you, strong, deliberate, purposeful, belong to those who walk with names and roles. You follow, not by choice, but because the rhythm of your life demands it. The sound of your own steps is faint, swallowed by the busy cadence of others. You learn the language of absence in these quiet marches. The hush between each footfall is a lesson in invisibility. To be seen is to be vulnerable. To be unheard is to survive. Your body memorizes the weight of silence, and you become part of the village's background noise, a presence felt only when missing.
You wash your feet in a bucket shared by 10 others, the water cold and murky. The grime clings stubbornly to your skin, as if your body itself has become a canvas of neglect. Your teeth bear the residue of ashes, a crude substitute for a brush that doesn't exist. Parabens, you survived the bathroom. The fabric you wear is a patchwork of lives, stitched together from cast-offs and worn memories. Every thread tells a story not your own, hand-me-downs from strangers, yet the only shield against the cold. You wrap yourself in the past, unaware if the future will offer anything better. Your body is a ledger of scars, marks from falls, silent punishments, and the relentless wear of days without comfort. Each bruise and scrape whispers a tale that no one asks to hear, a silent testimony to a life lived on the margins. Here, dignity is not in cleanliness, but in the stubborn will to endure. The light fades early here, swallowed by the heavy roof beams and the dense forest beyond the temple walls. You live in a world where the sun's warmth feels like a visitor that never stays. Days blur into one another, indistinguishable as shadows that lengthen and fold over your skin. You sit alone on the worn wooden floor, the cold seeping through the cracks beneath you. Silence is not peace here, it is a weight pressing on your chest. The absence of voices like a thick fog you cannot escape. Even the wind seems to whisper your insignificance. Every evening, the sky darkens without ceremony, and the village prepares to sleep while you remain a ghost in the periphery. No one checks if you are there. No one speaks your name. You learn to dissolve into the dusk, becoming as invisible as the fading light. Loneliness here is not a moment, but an atmosphere, an ever-present companion. It seeps into your bones, carving hollows where hope might have lived. And yet, in that endless dusk, you find a strange kind of rhythm, the quiet pulse of a life that persists, unseen but unyielding.
Names are fragile things here,
like leaves caught in a stream, drifting away before anyone can grasp them. You hear others called with warmth and certainty, their identities tied to families, stories, legacies. But your name, if you have one, is a secret whispered only once and then lost to the wind. You are called by whatever happens to come to mind. That one, the shadow, the leftover. These words are not spoken with kindness, but as a reminder of your place, existing but not belonging. No face turns toward you with recognition. No eyes hold your reflection. The monks pass you by, their gazes sliding over you like rain on stone, cold and indifferent. You learn to lower your own eyes, to shrink, to disappear further into the background, where the light barely reaches. Your name becomes less a label and more a void, a silence that echoes louder than any shout. Yet in the quiet moments, when the wind carries distant laughter or the rustle of leaves, you wonder if somewhere, someone remembers you differently. But the thought fades quickly, like a flicker of flame in the relentless dark. Each morning begins before the sun rises, before the world stirs. You are already awake, not by choice, but by duty. Your body moves with the rhythm of unseen commands, sweeping the cold stones, carrying water from the distant well, preparing what little the day will offer. Your efforts go unnoticed, swallowed by the vast silence around you. The work is endless, a cycle without reward or recognition. Every gesture is repeated until it loses meaning. Every task, a reminder that you exist only to serve, to maintain the edges of a world that never includes you. The dirt under your nails is a badge of survival, but also a mark of exclusion. Your hands are rough, cracked, and worn, carrying burdens heavier than any you can name. You do not complain. Complaining would be an invitation to erase what little place you hold here. The irony settles quietly. You are essential and invisible all at once. Your absence would be felt, but your presence is ignored. It is a paradox that shapes your every breath, a weight you carry as silently as the worn-out broom in your hands.
In the stillness of the night, when the world softens and shadows grow long, you find your only solace, the silence that is yours alone. It is here, away from watchful eyes and harsh words, that you dare to dream, not of escape, but of being seen. Your small acts of defiance are subtle, almost invisible. A stolen moment to gaze at the stars, a whispered question without expectation, a breath held just a little longer against the cold. These are the threads you weave into a fragile tapestry of hope. You learn that survival is not only in obeying, but in enduring with quiet strength. Each day you gather pieces of yourself that the world tried to discard, shaping from neglect a resilience no one taught you, but that you embody nonetheless. There is no grand rebellion, no fiery uprising. Instead, a patient persistence, a refusal to vanish completely. Your existence is a whisper against the roaring tide of indifference, small perhaps, but undeniable. In this silence, you become both ghost and witness, carrying stories that will never be told aloud, but are etched deeply into your bones. Morning breaks with the soft scrape of straw mats and the distant crow of the rooster, but your name remains a ghost that no one utters. You move through the day like a shadow sliding across ancient stone, present yet unseen. Each footstep around you is a reminder of the world's indifference, sandals thudding on wooden floors, the shuffle of robes, the quiet clink of tools. These sounds form a symphony in which you have no part, a rhythm you do not belong to. When you attempt to catch a gaze, it quickly flickers away,
as if your very presence unsettles the delicate balance of their ordered lives. The monks speak in hushed tones about duty and devotion, but never mention you, the forgotten child lingering on the periphery. Sometimes you wonder if your silence is a punishment or a blessing. To be invisible is to escape the harshness of expectation, but also to forfeit the comfort of belonging. You are both absent and present, alive and yet not quite counted. Still, you walk the same path every day, tracing the steps of those who do not see you, carving out your quiet existence in the cracks of a world that looks but never truly sees.
The dawn finds you already bent over the broom, sweeping a path no one will walk again. The weight you carry is invisible but no less real, a burden made of neglect, of silent reproach, of the endless echo of absence. Your shoulders ache from tasks repeated 1,000 times, chores that are both punishment and survival. Each movement is mechanical, a ritual you have learned without question. You do what must be done, though no hand ever reaches out to guide or to thank. The shadows cast by the low-hanging eaves stretch long and cold across your back. They press down with the heaviness of expectations you never earned, of a place you were never meant to hold. At times, you catch a glimpse of yourself in the rough surface of a water basin or the cracked window pane. A ghostly figure draped in threadbare clothes, carrying the invisible scars of a life unlived. You carry on, not because you choose to, but because to stop would mean to vanish entirely, and even a shadow clings to existence with fierce tenacity. In the quiet moments between shores, when the wind is low and the world seems to hold its breath, you hear names called from distant rooms, names that are not yours. They echo like ghosts, familiar yet foreign, carrying the weight of lives that matter and stories you are not part of. No one calls your name. If they do, it is a whisper, barely audible, slipping through cracks in the walls like a secret you are not meant to hear. Sometimes you wonder if your name even exists, if it was ever spoken aloud or simply forgotten before it could root itself in your soul. You become an answerless call, a question with no voice. The silence that surrounds your name is thick, almost tangible, a veil that separates you from belonging. Yet within that silence, you find a strange kind of peace. There is freedom in being unnamed, no expectations, no claims, no chains. But the cost is a loneliness so profound it seeps into your bones and shadows your every step. You learn to listen not for your name, but for the sounds of survival, the scrape of worn shoes on dirt, the rustle of old robes, the distant clink of bowls. These are your lullabies, your reminders that even forgotten children must find their own way through the dark. Night falls not with comfort, but with a chill that sinks deep into your skin, wrapping you in a cold so intimate it feels like a cruel kind of touch. The thin straw mat beneath you offers no warmth, only a hard, uneven surface pressed against aching bones. The darkness is dense, swallowing the flicker of distant lanterns and silencing the few voices that might have offered company. In this void, your breath becomes loud, a fragile rhythm in a silent world that neither hears nor cares. You learn to curl into yourself, folding like the worn fabric of your clothing, trying to shrink until you are almost nothing, invisible even to your own suffering. The night stretches endlessly, a slow tide of emptiness that tests the limits of your resolve. Cold seeps through the cracks in the wooden walls, finding its way to your heart. But it is not just the cold you fear, it is the absence. Absence of warmth, of protection, of even the smallest spark of hope.
In these forgotten nights, you become acquainted with the quiet ache of solitude, the heavy weight of being truly alone. And yet, somehow, you endure. You survive the cold not because you are strong, but because surrender is not an option. Morning breaks, but it brings no relief. Only the hollow sound of footsteps fading away, leaving you behind in a world that moves on without you. The wooden floor creaks under the weight of others, each step a reminder that you remain unseen, unheard, a shadow trailing in their wake. You rise before the sun, limbs heavy from a restless night. The air is crisp, biting at exposed skin, but your body is numb to such discomfort. Your presence is marked only by absence, your existence confirmed by the void left in every passing glance. Voices murmur orders not meant for you, and you learn to listen without responding, to move without being noticed. The silence that follows is louder than any shout, an invisible barrier that separates you from belonging. Each day, the rhythm repeats. Footsteps approach, then vanish. Promises of attention are broken before they begin, like whispers lost in the wind. You become an echo, a fading imprint on the fabric of a world that forgets. Yet, in this endless retreat of sound and presence, a quiet resolve takes root. To be here, even as the echo of footsteps that never return, is to bear witness to a truth others choose to ignore. You carry burdens no one sees. The chains that bind you are forged not from metal, but from silence, neglect, and the cold weight of being forgotten. Each task assigned, each glance avoided, tightens these invisible bonds around your wrists and ankles. Your hands, rough and calloused from endless labor, hold the emptiness of expectations unspoken and the absence of any kindness offered. The cold air bites at your skin, but the chill within is far deeper, a hollow ache that no fire can soothe. Every breath you take feels measured, as if you must ration the very air itself to survive this endless servitude. Your footsteps trace the same paths over and over, in a dance choreographed by others but never for you. There is no rebellion here, no outcry, only the quiet acceptance of a fate imposed before your first breath. The invisible chains do not clink or clatter, but their weight crushes with relentless persistence. And yet, in the stillness beneath this oppression, you find a paradoxical strength, a resilience born from endurance, a dignity woven from the very fabric of your confinement. In the quiet moments before dawn, when the world holds its breath between night and day, you whisper prayers that no one hears. Your voice, soft and trembling, slips like a shadow through the temple's empty halls, swallowed by the cold stone walls. These prayers are not for grand blessings or miracles. They are simple calls for recognition, for a moment of warmth, for a sign that you exist beyond the eyes that never meet yours. Each word carries the weight of years unseen, unanswered. The incense smoke curls upward, twisting like the fading hope inside you, fragile, fleeting, yet persistent. You clutch a worn wooden bead, smooth from countless fingers long gone, tracing its surface as if it could anchor your soul to something real. But the silence that follows your prayers is vast, echoing with absence. It is a silence so complete that it becomes a presence itself, pressing against your chest, reminding you that in this world, forgotten souls do not simply vanish. They linger, lingering between shadow and light. And still, you whisper on,
weaving your loneliness into a quiet ritual, a testament to a life that might never be spoken aloud, but refuses to be erased. You move through the days bound by chains no one sees, chains forged not of iron, but of neglect, expectation, and silence. Each step feels heavier, not because of the earth beneath your feet, but because of the weight pressing down inside your chest. You carry the burden of being unseen, unheard, as if your very existence is an inconvenience. The monotony of chores, the endless repetition of invisibility, feels like shackles tightening around your spirit. You do what is required, never more, never less, lest you draw attention to a presence they'd rather forget. In these invisible chains, you learn restraint, not just of movement, but of hope, of desire. To wish openly is to risk punishment. To dream aloud is to invite despair. Your body becomes a vessel of quiet endurance, your soul a shadow blending with the stone walls around you. Yet, paradoxically, these chains define you. In their silence, you find a strange strength, a grim determination to exist despite all odds. The chains may bind your body, but they cannot fully contain the flicker of life that refuses to be extinguished. In the stillness before dawn, you hear whispers carried on the wind, fragments of prayers never meant for you, murmurs of hope that pass you by like ghosts. These echoes drift through the temple's wooden beams, brushing past your ears, elusive and distant. You find yourself repeating silent prayers, not to gods or monks, but to the emptiness itself, a plea for a sign, a touch, an acknowledgement. But the air remains heavy with indifference, as if the very heavens have turned their gaze away. These forgotten prayers settle inside you like dust, coating your heart with a quiet ache. Each one is a reminder of the invisible life you lead, a life where your needs are muffled beneath layers of ritual and routine. But in the repetition, there is a fragile rhythm, a connection to something larger than your solitary existence. Even in being forgotten, your prayers resonate softly, ripples in a still pond, subtle but undeniable.
You move through the corridors like a shadow, felt but unseen. There are eyes that glance your way, not with kindness, but with a cold curiosity that weighs on your skin like a heavy cloak. These gazes do not seek to understand. They measure, judge, and dismiss you without a word. You learn to anticipate their presence, the subtle tightening of the air when they pass, the brief flicker of recognition that quickly vanishes. The burden of unseen eyes is a silent punishment. You carry it in your posture, in the careful way you step, and in the habit of shrinking into yourself so thoroughly that you almost disappear. You wonder if those watching would see you at all if you stopped moving, if you held your breath long enough to become still. Would you dissolve into the walls, a ghost permanently trapped between presence and absence? Names are a treasure you never held. When someone speaks, it is never your name, only whispers or titles meant to erase you further. That one, the leftover, the shadow. The sound of your true name is a ghost's whisper, lost to time and neglect. Sometimes you imagine how it would feel, like a soft warmth on your tongue, or a faint light breaking through endless dusk. Each forgotten name is a small wound, invisible but persistent, reminding you daily of how little you belong. Without it, you are both everywhere and nowhere, present yet erased from the story others tell. In silence, you cradle the hollow where your name should be, a space waiting for meaning that never comes. It is a quiet ache, an echo that reverberates through your bones and lingers in the spaces no one fills. Your hands move constantly, but never for yourself. Each task, each motion binds you tighter to a fate unseen but unyielding, a chain forged by neglect and hardened by routine. You carry burdens that no one acknowledges, the dust of forgotten corners, the scrape of worn floors, the cold water that washes away hope alongside dirt. These chains are invisible to others, but you feel their weight in every ache and every moment spent unseen. Your body learns to move without complaint, a silent submission to a life that holds no promises. There is no rebellion, only quiet endurance. Each day, the invisible links tighten, reminding you that freedom was never part of the bargain. A name is a promise, a claim, a thread that ties you to something greater than yourself. But your name? It's a whisper lost in the wind, a secret never shared, a ghost that haunts empty halls. No one calls you by name because none was given, or if it was forgotten before it left their lips. You become the shadow without a story, the face without a voice. In the silence, you invent your own identity from scraps of sounds and memories that aren't yours. Each day, you wonder if a name would change your place in the world, or if it's just another word to disappear. Names hold power, but yours is a void, an echo that follows you, reminding you that belonging was never meant to be. You move through the days like a prisoner, but your bars are not made of iron or wood. They are silence, neglect, and absence. These invisible chains bind you tighter than any shackle.
There is no rebellion because no one expects anything else from you. The world's indifference is your cage, its neglect the lock you cannot pick. Your hands do the work of 100 others, yet your effort is unseen, unvalued, like the wind that carries dust but leaves no trace. You carry this weight not with rage, but with a quiet, resigned strength, a heavy stillness that keeps you alive without breaking. In this solitude, you learn that freedom is not just the absence of chains, but the presence of a recognition, and you have none. In the monastery, silence is law, strict and unyielding, but your silence is different. It is not chosen, it is forced. Each day, you swallow your thoughts and keep your fears locked inside. The absence of words does not bring peace, but a growing echo in your chest. You learn to speak with your eyes, with the slight tremble of your hands, with the way you hold your breath. But the monks do not hear these whispers. To them, silence is obedience. To you, it is invisibility. This quiet grows heavier with every passing moment, pressing down like the thick wooden beams above, until it becomes a presence itself, cold, vast, and endless. You walk the same paths every day, but no one ever follows behind. Your footsteps fall softly on the dirt, swallowed by the emptiness around you. There is no call to catch up, no hand reaching out in welcome, only the distant sound of life moving on without you. Each step reminds you of your place, a shadow trailing behind the living, a ghost among the breathing. The earth beneath your feet is the only witness to your passage, and even it seems to forget you soon after you're gone. You learn to move quietly, to blend into the background, because making noise only draws attention to your absence. The monastery's walls hold stories, but none are yours. You pass through empty corridors where voices echo, soft prayers, distant laughter, never meant for you. Your presence is a whisper, barely a breeze stirring the paper screens. Sometimes, you catch fragments of conversation about futures, dreams, legacies, words that feel like they belong to a world from which you are forever barred.
The silence that surrounds you is thick, almost tangible, as if the walls themselves want to forget you. Yet, within that silence, your own heartbeat becomes loud, a reminder of your solitude. You carry burdens no one sees, chains forged by neglect and expectation alike. Every task you perform tightens these invisible shackles, sweeping dust that never settles, carrying water that never quenches your thirst for acceptance. You move through days with a bowed head, shoulders heavy, as if the weight of being unseen presses down on your very bones. There is no rebellion, no outcry, only the quiet endurance of someone trapped not by iron, but by the absence of freedom. Freedom you never knew you lacked until its absence becomes your constant companion. In the dim glow of lanterns, your silhouette merges with the darkness. You learn to move silently, a ghost slipping between walls and whispers. Every flicker casts fleeting shapes, sometimes your own reflection, but mostly just shadows that remind you of your place, unseen, unheard, unclaimed. The light is brief, unreliable, much like the rare moments when kindness touches your skin. You hold on to these flickers, fragile as they are, because they are proof you exist beyond neglect. Winter's chill is not just in the air, it settles into your bones. You shiver beneath tattered cloth, the cold biting sharper than any scolding word. Fingers numb, breath visible like smoke, you count the seconds between warmth and freezing again. No fire greets you, only the unforgiving silence of empty rooms and colder hearts. You learn to make peace with the cold, a constant companion, relentless and unyielding, much like your own existence. You carry a burden no one sees, invisible chains of neglect wrap tightly around your spirit. Walking through crowded halls, you become air, there, but untouched, unheard. Your presence is a shadow slipping past notice, your pain a whisper drowned by indifference. Every step is heavy with the quiet knowledge that you are forgotten, unmarked by memory or mercy. The days blur into one another, an unbroken chain of invisible moments. You feel your body grow tired, worn thin by years of absence and neglect. There is no grand farewell, no tears or words to mark your passing. Just the soft fall of leaves outside the temple walls, the whisper of wind through ancient wood. Yet even as the world forgets you, something lingers, a quiet dignity, born not of recognition, but of survival. Because in being unseen, you have learned the deepest truth, that existence itself, no matter how shadowed, is a testament to endurance. And somewhere beyond the silence, beyond the forgotten days, the spirit moves on, free at last from waiting, free to be.